Okay, so this week, what we're going to do is a review session. We haven't done that in quite a bit. We've gone over a few different setups now, and I think it's time that we do go back and review them, just so that you guys are on the same page. And for the people that have just joined as well, it'll give them a chance to catch up and see what we have been learning. So, what we're going to cover today is we'll have a Asia range bounce setup review. We'll have a review on the safety trade and also the reset safety. Okay, so those three setups that we looked at this week or these past couple weeks. Okay, so first off, let's look at the Asia range bounce. Okay, and what is an Asia range bounce trade? It is a bounce trade that happens after an inducement of a breakout traders above or below the Asian consolidation range. Okay, after the inducement, the price will pull back to bounce off the 50 EMA in the 50% level of the Asian range, all right? Or the price will pull back to the top or the bottom of the Asian range. And what we look for is we look for the TDI. It has to confirm with the RSI crossing the signal line and either bounce or trap within 1.5 points off of the static 50. Okay, and no anchor is required for this setup. Unlike the ID50, the bounce move, the 50 EMA bounce move, we don't require a anchor for this setup. Okay, so you don't need an anchor. All right, so let's go into some examples. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. All right, this is basically an example of GF. Okay, and you can see here no anchors required. This is going to be a move where you see an Asia range consolidation. Okay, then you're going to see an inducement outside of the Asian range. All right, this is the inducement. All right, and then we're going to get a pullback to the 50% range right here, as denoted by this yellow dotted line, and also the 50 EMA right here. You can see it comes up below, or it closes above, then immediately big shift candle right back down. Okay, closes below the 13 EMA. You're going to look at right here on the TDI for this confirmation. Okay, you want to see the bounce off of the static 50, which is the dotted black line, or it has to come within 1.5 points, which is right here, denoted by the dotted white lines. Okay, so as long as you get a bounce off of that range, and it could be a bounce right to it. Okay, it could be bounced just like this, 1.5 points off of it, or it could come right through it and then trap through it and come back down. So go through and then back down below. Okay, so you want to see one of those conditions, and that will be your TDI confirmation for the bounce off the static 50. But you also want to see the RSI line cross the signal line. Okay, so your entry candle is going to be not this shift candle, although that would be a valid entry as well. I would understand if you took that, because that is a very large shift candle. Okay, it's a nice signal. But if you want the confirmation entry, you're gonna have to wait for this candle close below the EMA. Okay, and also where the TDI confirms here the RSI crosses the signal line. Okay, so that is going to be how you confirm that trade. You want to see a nice inducement out of the Asian range. Okay, so you can see this consolidation here is the Asia range. It comes moves nicely outside of it. All right, induces short traders. Okay, into this trend here. Pulls back immediately, takes out all of the stops. Okay, clears the board. Comes back to the 50% range, to the 50 EMA. Okay, closes above and then back below. This move here where it closes above the EMA, that traps the people that are trading the EMAs long, the breakout traders long, right? They see a close above the EMA, they'll take a long order, and then the next candle immediately kills those guys off, okay, and takes them out in one move, okay? And then that right there is your entry candle. Okay, stop loss will go above the shift candle, okay, right here, and above this day open price here, and above the EMAs. That'll be the safest stop loss area, and you can see the price moves nicely down. All right, another example. This is going to be where it pulls back to the bottom of the range. Okay, so instead of the 50% range, it pulls back to the bottom of the range. You can see that it does that there. So you get a nice inducement out of the Asian range again. Okay, this traps traders to go short, right? And then what they'll do is they'll pull back and take out those short traders. Okay, so they'll book some of those orders, take out the stop losses. Okay, I'll pull back to the 50%. The 50 EMA, and the bottom of the Asian range. You can see this is the bottom of the range, right? It pulls right back to that level here. Traps through it, comes back down, gives you a set of railroad tracks, okay? This candle shifts below the 13 EMA. That's the safer entry, obviously, because you want to close below the 13 EMA. This one is pretty close. Okay, you can, depending on your broker feed, some people will have that close and some people won't. It is a railroad track candle formation, so that it is a strong entry in of itself. So I would understand if you took that trade there short, but the safe entry here is to wait for this shift candle to close below the 13. Okay, and you can see here. The RSI bounces off of the static within 1.5 points, okay, and then rolls right down, and then RSI crosses the signal line as well, okay. So that is your entry candle right there, and that's where it confirms with the TDI, okay. RSI closes below the signal line right there. All right, and one more example of the top Asia bounce top range. Okay, instead of bouncing off the bottom of the range, we bounce off the top, right? So here we have an inducement outside of the Asian range, and you can see this is just a tiny inducement, but it's still an inducement. As long as we get a little poke outside of the Asian range, and it can be the body of the candle or it can be the wick, all right? But you want that inducement, you want to see a visible inducement outside of that range. Okay, and that will count, and then we'll get a pullback, okay, to the 50 EMA. You can see here it doesn't really pull back to the 50 EMA until right about here, okay, where it touches, all right, and then this is the top of the Asia box, okay, so right here you can see it just grazes the top of the Asia box and it doesn't go down below it, right? So that's what you want to see when you get pull back to the top or the bottom of the range, all right, pull back to the 50 and to the top of the range. Then you have a bounce, okay, off of the static within 1.5 points. So you can see the white dotted line. It bounced right off of that, okay. And then here you can see the RSI line crosses the signal line after the bounce, okay. So your entry candle can be right here off of this. This shift candle closes above the 13, but this is the better entry here. You get a pullback entry, okay, a discounted entry, as opposed to taking it up here. You get a nice pullback entry. All right, and that's what the TDI confirms. Okay, and lastly, we're going to look at GU. Okay, and this is going to be an Asia bounce safety, which is with a second leg entry, because sometimes you do get a second leg, and what that is called is a safety, right? An Asia bounce safety. So one more time, we get an inducement out of the Asian range. Okay, then we get a pullback back up to the 50 EMA. All right, now watch carefully. Okay, you get a pullback of the 50 EMA. All right, you do get a trap of the static this time, right? You get a nice move through the static, then back down below, and you even get a cross of the signal line when the candle shifts below the 13 EMA and closes, right? So you have a nice a bounce setup right there. But then what happens? The very next move, it comes right back up over and above and takes out. If your stop loss was above the high here, okay, you got taken out. Right, but you can see here they trapped the EMA on the second leg. Okay, they came right back down. They gave you a nice evening star pattern. Okay, shifted back below the 13 EMA. You're back on alert. Okay, this is an entry opportunity again. Okay, so once this closes on the 13, the only difference is you have to wait for it. You cannot take it here. Okay, even though the RSI crossed the signal line at this point, what you have to do is you have to wait. Okay, until it closes below the market baseline. Okay, because on a safety setup, on a second leg, all of our second leg setups, okay, we have to wait until it crosses the market baseline. All right, so you can see here why we don't take it on that leg here, and why we wait for the market baseline is because of this move right here. See, it pulls right back. Okay, so you save yourself sitting through this drawdown. All right, and then here is the confirmed entry. We get a shift below the 13 EMA, we get close below the signal line, and we also have RSI sitting below the market baseline. Okay, and that is the entry right there. You get a nice pullback entry, or you can take it on the close of the candle, but that is your entry. And then you can see here on the bottom is where the TDI confirms with the RSI cross the signal line below the market baseline. All right, next we're going to look at the safety trade. Okay, so safety trade rules. Anchor set up at the peak, 180R off the anchor, so a nice big move off the anchor, at least one ADR. 1350 cross on the H1, which is also a 5200 cross on the M15, all right? And that's what you want to see. But there's also cases where the EMAs don't cross and you get a non-cross safety. That can happen as well. Okay, what you want to see also is a stop hunt to the EMA or the top or the bottom of the Asian range, a nice visible stop hunt. Okay, but there are times where you will not get a visible stop hunt. So those are, nice straightaway trades that just take off. Okay, and sometimes you get them and sometimes you won't. But if you're expecting it, that's the only way you're going to get those trades. Okay, on the TDI, we want to see a showing out of the band, in the band condition with divergence. Okay, that is preferred. For short trades, you're going to be looking for an M pattern with a nameable second leg. And obviously for long trades, it's going to be the opposite, right? W pattern with a nameable second leg. All right, so let's look at some examples of that. So this is UCAD, all right? On the H1 chart, all right, we had a peak low down here, okay? So a nice big move, many days of drop, okay, down to this peak low, all right? And this forms a multi-day W pattern, okay, down here at the low. All right, zooming into the M15, we're going to look at the safety trade and see how that plays out, right? So down here at the peak low, what you want to see is you want to see a nice big move, 50 to 100 pips, and you want to see it close at the extremes. Okay, so what it means is right up here, you can see at the close of the day, it's up the extremes. It didn't pull back into some consolidation, right? It made a nice big move away from this peak, and it stayed up here at the top. Okay, into the next day, consolidation. What you want to see is you're looking for, well, obviously you have a 5200 cross there. Okay, that's going to be the first clue. To lock in that move, okay, the peak anchor, and then you're going to look for a visible stop hunt, right? So you have here's the Asian range, all right, and it's going to be a visible stop hunt outside of the Asian range, right? So here's one leg, here's another leg, there's your second leg, and then you have a nice out of the band, in the band TDI, out of the band, in the band right here. Okay, and then you have a second leg nameable pattern, which is railroad tracks. Okay, a nice pin here, then a second leg railroad track. There's your entry. All right, let's look at GJ. Same situation. GJ, we have a H1 peak low. Okay, many days of drop. All right, from from back here into this peak formation low. Okay, and then what it will do, it will form a multi-day W pattern. Okay, so let's take a look at the M15 and see how that plays out. This is going to be an example of a non-cross safety now, okay? So we have this peak formation low, right? And we have a nice big move away from that peak, 50 to 100 pips, close at the extremes, right? And then it consolidates in Asia. All right, so the next day what we're looking for is, we would normally look for a 5200 cross, but in this case, we didn't get a cross, right? It's still open, but we did have a big peak low. We had a multi-day W, and we had a 50 to 100 pip close at the extremes, a 180 move off of the peak. All right, so the next day we're still looking for a stop hunt outside of the Asia range, which we get right here. Okay, a nice little move outside of Asia. First leg was actually in Asia. Second leg here, okay, with a nice big shift candle, closes above the EMAs. All right, visible stop hunt. This actually is kind of like an evening star pattern, okay? So second leg pattern of an evening star. We have 3 dojis here instead of just one, okay? Normally you just see one doji, but they held this low here, okay, to induce those sellers short before taking that away from them. Nice big shift up, all right? So that's the non-cross safety example. So now we're going to look at reset safety, all right? And it's going to be very similar to the safety trade, except it's going to be off of a reset peak. All right, so we're going to have a reset anchor locked in, usually at the 200 or the 800 EMA, 1 ADR off the anchor. Okay, same situation, 1350 cross on the H1 and a 5200 cross on the M15. All right, visible stop hunt to the EMA or the top or the bottom of the Asian range. TDI showing out of the band, in the band condition with divergence, right, and also short trades and long trades. M pattern with a nameable second leg, W pattern with a nameable second leg, same as the safety trade. Okay, the only difference, like I said, is that we're looking for reset peak instead of a a normal cycle peak. Okay, so let's take a look at this example here. This is Euro JPY. This is an M15 safety. All right, we have our reset anchor or reset peak right here. Okay, off of usually it's off of the 200, the 800. In this case, it's the 800. Okay, on the 1 hour chart, this will be the 200 EMA, but you can see a nice big M here, anchor off of this 800 EMA. All right, then we get a nice move of 50 to 100 pips, 1 ADR usually away from this peak, okay, area, and then we have a 50-200 cross, which locks in that anchor. Okay, so there's your 50-200 cross. So then what you're looking for is a visible stop hunt, okay, which we get right there, all right, to the EMA, to the top, just outside of the Asia box range, to the EMAs, all right. So trap through the EMA, back through, visible stop hunt. Okay, and then next we're gonna have you have a TDI confirmation, obviously a 1-1 confirmation, which is out of the band and then back in the band. Okay, now you could take this trade up here where the shift candle closes below the EMA. However, we don't have a close below the market baseline. So what we're looking for the safe confirmation is we're looking for a second leg nameable pattern, which we get an evening star right here in the shadow box. We get a shift below the 13, and we also get a confirmation on the TDI. Okay, sorry, I'm skipping through this a little bit quickly. So UCAD example. Let's look at this UCAD M15 Reset Safety example. We have the reset peak right here. Okay, now this case, the reset anchor didn't bounce off of the 800. It went through the 800 and then came back up. Okay, so you can see this move here is what we're looking at for this reset anchor. We get a nice big move away from this peak, right? Close at the extremes. Okay, that's very important. Okay, we didn't get a pull back down here, back into the range. It closed back up here at the extremes, which is a very telling sign that they don't want anything to do with this price level anymore. They want to stay away from that area. Okay, so they'll move aggressively away from that peak. Okay, they'll close at the extremes, and then the very next day, what you're going to look for is the visible stop hunt, right? So 50-200 cross locks that anchor in, right? Then you're going to look for a visible stop hunt the very next day, which we get right here. Okay, so visible stop hunt. Now, the problem with this is that you don't get a second leg, right? You do have a nameable pattern in the shadow box, which is nice. Okay, so this you might be looking at as just the first leg, and you didn't get a second leg here. All right, so what do you do? Okay, you see a TDI shark fin, you only have a 1. You don't get a 1-1, right? The 1-1 happens over here, and you don't get the out of the band, in the band here to give you that second leg confirmation. So what do you do when there's no clear pattern to take that safety trade? Okay, sometimes what you have to do is you have to go to the 1 hour chart and look for that setup there. Okay, so take a look at the 1 hour chart here. They have there may be a potential 50 bounce setup there instead. For you to take that safety trade instead of the M15 when you don't get a clear pattern. All right, so here, let's take a look here. This is the reset anchor, okay, off of the 200 EMA right there, right? And then what you're going to look for is the 1350 cross on the H1, okay, which is the same as the 5200 on the M15, okay? So 1350 cross on the H1, all right? And then this is the H150 bounce move that you're going to take, okay? Because when you have 1350 cross, all you need is a pullback to the 50, which we get a nice V spike here, pullback, okay, to the 50, close above the 13 EMA, all right, and a nice move away from that bounce, okay? So the TDI is going to confirm as well, okay, with that. And on a bounce trade, all you need is a cross of the signal line, okay, and a trap through of this static, right, the 50 figure, the 50 static, sorry. So RSI comes back below and back above, okay, crosses the signal line. It crosses the market baseline as well, which is an added bonus, okay. It doesn't have to cross the market baseline for a bounce move, but if it does, it's an extra bonus, it's an extra confirmation. And you can see it moves very nicely, okay, up there after that TDI confirm. Okay, so that is our review session, guys. That's it for today's lesson. Hopefully that was helpful. It was a nice big review. All of these setups and all of these trades can be reviewed in the previous videos in the weekly review video setups. Okay, so just this is like a review session for you guys, just a refresher and make sure that you guys are still keeping you guys on your toes. So I hope that was helpful. If there's any questions on this, please let me know. Send me a message on Telegram or in the groups. Otherwise, that's going to do it for today's lesson. I will see you guys next week.